Women's Week in Provincetown is an epic annual event.
And Wing Women Weekend is going to make it even epicer.
It's not a word, Barb, epicer.
Epicist. Delicious. I don't know. What do I look like? A worditarian? All I know is that Wing Women Weekend is going to be the event of 2024.
Yep, October 16th through 20th is when we are going to Provincetown, one of America's gayest communities, for learning, fun, friendship, and community. Barb and I are later in life and divorce experts, but this event is for everyone. For those who are just beginning to consider their sexuality, to those who have come out years ago.
There's tons of amazing activities available for queer women of all kinds taking place. Everything from tea dances to whale watching, and you can partake in that with your new group of gay besties, aka your Wing Women.
And we assembled some incredible experts to lead workshops on things like lesbian dating, lesbian couples workshops, business adventure, and more. And all of these women, except for one, are later in life lesbians.
So let us be your co-pilots as we enjoy some fantastic activities together designed for queer women of all kinds and for all ages.
Think of it as summer camp, but for grown women and gayer. You'll make friends and have experiences unlike any other, and you'll have us as your wing women.
Early bird pricing ends August 7th, so register with the coupon code EARLYBIRD to save. Sign up at www.wingwomenweekend.com. That's wingwomenweekend.com.
Hey queer friends, are you ready to be inspired? Welcome to Season 5 of Coming Out and Beyond, a podcast that shares stories from the LGBTQIA+ community. Here's your host, Anne-Marie Zanzal.
Hi, this is Anne-Marie Zanzal, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA+ stories. And I am so happy to welcome to this show today, Wes Schmitz. So Wes is a fellow Nashvilleian, and he was raised in a small farming community in central Illinois. Growing up, he was shoved deeper and deeper into the closet by the rhetoric around him. Fast forward to college, and the same thing happened. Jokes on campus and in the fraternity house kept him in the dark closet. He found his courage at age 29 and came out to family and friends. Since then, he has navigated the darkest of nights and brightest of days. He says, I never choose to be gay, but I finally choose to be happy. Coming up on 3 years sober, he loves helping people navigate their own journeys. Wes, welcome, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Thanks.
I know. I was on Wes's podcast with his friend Philip, which is 2 bottles deep.
Yep.
Or 3 bottles deep.
2 bottles. Yeah. I had to put down the bottle.
Well, I was actually lucky to be on their podcast twice, so go check it out. It's a great podcast. They're very, very funny. So, Wes, tell me your story, honey.
Oh, it's funny when I was like shoved deeper and deeper into the closet. You know, growing up in a town of 5,000 white people, there's not a whole lot of diversity. Great community to grow up in. I'm so glad I was raised there. A great upbringing, but you know, as I came out, people started remembering what they said around me, whether it was in the fraternity house or back home or in high school. And there was this one instance, because I knew I was gay in probably 3rd or 4th grade. That would have been the mid 80s, late 80s. And I didn't know what gay was, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I was different. But then my parents, we grew up in a tight-knit community, and we all, the subdivision we were in was by 20, 25 houses. Well, everybody got together on Friday nights, and we had the bonfire and the volleyball net, right? So everybody's gathered around. I remember sitting around the fire, and one of our neighbors had just taken their daughter to Disney, and they came back, and we were all around the campfire. I'll never forget it. Everyone's like, how was it? It was because this is before the internet. We didn't, you know, there was no posting or anything like that. So real conversation in that moment. The parents are like, it was horrible. It was gay pride there. you should have seen the people. It ruined our vacation.
Wow.
All the parents are like, oh, we're so sorry. You spent all that money and the gays ruined it. Now, again, this is at this point probably early 90s, and I was a teenager, but that stuck with me. And I'm like, guess I can't come out because I ruin everybody's vacation. And that those little things stick with you. Those
Oh,
little
absolutely. They're very innocuous. Well, that was actually pretty big. The gays ruined our vacation, which I find so ludicrous. But gays are a lot of fun. So anyway, then
Mhm.
you hear this and you're like, early teenager. Um, and I can only imagine, like, it wasn't like it was like, oh, I can't be gay. It was just one of the other things that you put into your heart, which said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if it's right. I'm gonna it's wrong. Everybody's agreeing with them, right? Did you consciously realize that, or was it more subconscious, you think?
Yeah. No, after they would say all of those things, and again, they never preached against it. It was just that rhetoric that was out there that it was bad. And AIDS, everything was going on with AIDS in the 80s, right? So we're in early 90s, and I didn't read any of that stuff. I don't know what's going on, but I think the parents were very well aware. So that did, yeah, it just it sunk in, kind of like you said. I'm like, well, I guess I can, yeah, I'll be married to a woman, I'll have kids. So my,
Hmm. Hmm.
you either go to college or don't, but you graduate, get a job, you get married, you start having kids. That was
So So a lot of times when I work with women coming out later in life, a lot of them talk about recovered memory. So besides that incident with, your little community in your neighborhood, like as you started to come out at 29, did you have other memories of your family and friends, and just like the little incidences along the way where somebody might have said something, or you just knew that being gay was not was going to not be in the cards for you?
little comments at it,
Mhm.
especially in high school. I'll never forget, I was sitting in horticulture class, which I won that award that year, and I can't keep a plant alive. So I think he just gave it to me because I was the only one that paid attention. But I remember I did something with my hand. We were talking, I had like swished my hand or something. And this kid named Kyle's like, God, that was really gay. Are you gay? And it was
Mhm.
this hand moment. And I knew I was. And I'm like, no, I was just switch. I don't know what I was talking. I used my hands like we all
Mhm.
do. And
Mhm.
moments like that, and the fraternity house jumping ahead, people would use, homo, faggot. And it was all a joke. I mean, looking back, it was, 2000 and to 2005, I think. And yeah, it was just kind of a joke. Fast forward all those years, when I came out, a lot of my fraternity brothers emailed me and they're like, we are so sorry about all the jokes in college. And I'm like, it was really sweet that they thought of that, because I didn't come out until I was 28 or 29. And
Mhm.
so it was a lot of those little moments. And I remember my mom worked for the state of Illinois, and she had gay friends.
Mhm.
When it happens to you and your family, then your reputation's on the line. It wasn't good. Uh,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I have a lot of people that have parents that are incredibly progressive. They have gay friends. I've had clients that their mom was the teacher for the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance for high schools. And so she thought when she came out, her mother wasn't going to have a problem. Well, her mom had a big problem. And a lot of times people are surprised, um, because it's like, as you said, not my kid, not my kid. I don't care if anybody's gay, but my kid can't be. And that's really more to do with their own homophobia, which I think a lot of times people haven't explored.
mhm,
Mhm.
absolutely. Miranda Lambert has a song called Mama's Broken Heart. And it's just like, it was based in the 50s and 60s. If the wife was beaten, she put the makeup on. She still looked great in public. It was this facade we had to put up so we could help other people. But, we couldn't kind of show our own problems or discuss different things. It was just kind of like shove it down.
So, very typical of small town America. So you grew up in small town of America, and so were like, did your parents or family expect you guys to be just compulsory heterosexual, heteronormative, people that, we're a nice straight family. Look, we have nice children. Everybody is going to be a mom and dad someday. Is that what your parents projected on you?
Yeah. And to carry the family name on.
Yeah. Are you the
Right.
only boy in the
No,
family?
I have a brother.
Okay.
Kicker, get this. The kicker is I was wanting to come out. I was wanting to come out. I moved from Chicago after college down to Austin, Texas.
Mhm.
And I tried to call my parents. It'd be a Friday night. They were going to dinner with friends. And I'm like, okay, God, can't ruin their weekend. So I was there in there 2 years before I even told them.
Mhm.
And I I was getting ready to tell them. Then my brother, he and his wife realized they could not have children.
Mhm.
And it was up to me to carry on the name. So that kept me in the closet even longer. Not their fault. That was self-imposed. That I did that. And we did not grow up religious at all. I have a cross on my arm and go to church now, but my dad was an altar boy, mom was Lutheran, and dad growing up in the Catholic school. It's a smaller town, so I don't think they wanted to pay for the private education, but they're like, it's Payne, Illinois. What are you gonna get? So we didn't grow up religious. It was just this community. What are your friends going to think? And what are your brother's friends going to think? And I'm like, I don't know my brother's friends. So here I am living a life for other people.
Oh,
And, and really the quote that got me to come out and be okay with it was Steve Jobs is your time is limited. Stop living someone else's life. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Back to your parents, though, a lot of times people will reject religion, like Catholicism, Lutheranism. They'll reject religion, but those values still stay inside of them. So even though mom and dad were not going to church, they still had those values inside of them. And it was so interesting is that they were, you and your brother, and do you have any sisters or anything like that? No. So you and your brother both got that value
Mhm.
put on you. And it also seems like you felt enormous responsibility.
Yeah. Because from the time your parents hold you when you're born, automatically they think of the graduation, the wedding, the grandchildren. They think of that lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, both of my grandfathers passed in 93, when I was 12. And I'll never forget many years. I'm like, God, what would grandpa think? What would pappy think? And what are all nothing was ever centered around me. It was around everybody else. And then once I came out, I had to give my parents time to get adjusted. We can't come out and say, all right, you have 2 weeks, deal with it. Because it took me 28 years.
So when you finally told mom and dad, tell us about that. What happened?
Yeah, it was over the phone. I was getting ready to go. It was February. And I was in Austin laying by the pool. It was hot out. It was great. I called home. It's winter. I said, hey, I'm going to be home in May. I believe it was for Memorial Day or for a wedding I was going back to. And I said, I just finally got to tell you. And it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday night. And I told him, and I've never heard my parents cry other than at my grandfather's, both their funerals. And
Oh,
that killed me. And they're fine now. They've met my ex-partner, anybody dated, they've met. They're great. My grandmother's great. She's 91. My brother, his wife, everybody's great. But in that moment,
yeah, of course.
it was okay. Well, that's your life in Austin, so just don't bring it back here.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed to that. I'm like, okay, baby steps, right? And at that time, I still told him I'd try to change, even though I knew that was bull.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was rough for a while.
Mm-hmm. So what I liked about what you said is that you gave your parents time. And a lot of times people come out, whether they're gay or bi or trans or whatever, and especially when they're young, they expect a lot of times parents to immediately assimilate everything and be okay. How long did it take your parents to just be okay with you being gay and letting you, not welcoming your partners into their lives and stuff like that?
A couple years, but I
Yeah.
wasn't home a lot. So when they saw me, they're like, oh, you really haven't changed. So I still have no style. So I still wear the boring clothes I wear because I'm gauging and I'm colorblind. So two knocks right there. But it took them a while. But really what helped is when we started having our our neighborhood reunions, and they saw that no one's opinion of me changed. That
Mhm.
helped them because that was that acceptance. Because again, they're still small town. They'll always be small town, and that's not an excuse for ignorance. But I understand where they're coming from because they don't see black people, they don't see brown people, they don't see, and they're not racist. They never taught me racism. They never taught me homophobia. This is just what's in the community. And back in the 80s and 90s, it was a different time. So once they started seeing everybody was like, oh wow, they accept Wes. And I did have a partner for quite a while, and when he would go back with me, it was just normal life, and that's what helped them get over it, is the acceptance of others.
Do you think that they had that stereotype of the very effeminate, flamboyant gay man in their head?
Yeah, because my
And
cousin came out. My cousin didn't have to come out. Like, we knew,
he had a
the
glass closet.
especially across, the floor. But but yeah, when Drew came out, I think mom thought I was going to wear the leather pants, and again, I'm saying that because my cousin did.
Mhm.
Not in it, I guess, is a stereotype, but they had that, what they see on TV about pride parades and all of this. And what I remind them too is a lot of my friends that went through private school, the ones that this does not count for everyone, but the ones that I went through college with, and they went to the private school, I went to the high school. I didn't have kids out of wedlock. I didn't have to drop out of college. I haven't been arrested 8 times. So when
Mhm.
I throw that back at my parents, I'm like, yeah, your kids turned out pretty damn good.
Mhm.
Had to bail me out of anything. And I know a lot of friends that went to private school that didn't have all that, but just kind of comparing, because they are very comparative. There's like, well, this and that. I compared myself to a lot of, we all do, right? You graduate
Mhm.
college, your friend gets a good job, you compare yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. So you said you came out in Austin. What was that like?
that was fun. Austin's very liberal, very fun. It's a lot like Nashville, we're the blue dot in the Red Sea, and it was a great mixture. I felt very safe there. It was my first gay bar experience. I'll never forget. I went on a Tuesday night and I just walked in by myself. And I'm not good at that. I'm really kind of shy. But it was fun. But then again, it was almost like the fraternity days and college days all over again, because now I'm exploring real feelings
Mhm.
and drinking,
Mhm.
right? And again, I went to college, and it wasn't the fraternity life. I drank in the dorms before the fraternity, but it was like that college life all over again, and the fraternity
Mhm.
house all over again. It was like we were all living, and I was late 20s, and it
And
was,
that's what
yeah,
single people in their late 20s often do. They party, they have fun. And I would like to ask you one question. So, how did you, besides the gay bar, how did you get connected with the community? Because that's one of the biggest things, like I teach people, is because community is everything. If you have community, it makes everything so much better.
it's
So, a lot of times when someone's new to the community, it's sometimes really hard to get connected and to get in. How did you do that?
a lot of my friends I met at the bars, gay and straight.
Mhm.
But I am I say I'm shy, but I'm still like a social person, especially
You
when I
are.
drink. That's the social lubrication. I'll talk to anybody at a networking event or anything like that. So definitely the apps were coming out at that time. So if you date someone and met their friends, and built community that way. The Austin Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, the AGLCC, was just kicking off then. It had been around for probably a decade or longer, but we just had a really good board of directors. I joined that board, um, and we really grew that. I've met so many people through that. And you talk about straight allies jumping in. I mean, we had so many straight people that joined in. So I've never just had a lot of people in the gay community. I like to network. I like
Mhm.
variety. I like diversity. So the AGLCC was a catalyst in me, and I did real estate back then, and still do. So it was a good networking event, but it was a great way to build those relationships. And I'll never forget dating the first time, because when I'd break up with a girl in college, I'd be like, all right, see you later. But then when I had my heart ripped out by a dude,
Yeah.
I do have a soul. I do have a heart. Okay, I'm not as cold and dry as I thought. And
Well,
that's
that's so normal in our community, right? Your first queer romance and the first breakup is because a lot of people express that, like when when you broke up with the girls, it was like, hey, bye.
Yeah, you get dinner later. It's fine.
Yeah, but when you have your heart broken for the first time, it is incredibly painful. And it's, because that person is not only, someone we've dated, they're often tied to our queer identity as well, because it's the first person you've fallen in love with. Maybe it's the first person you've had a lot of sex with. I mean, all those things like that. And when that's gone, it's like, who am I without them? And so a lot of times this is the paradox, is that to develop a queer identity, a lot of times we have to be in relationship with somebody,
Mhm.
but if that but we're also queer without that person. And so if and when that relationship ends, then it can be just devastating and heartbreaking. So that
Yeah.
happened to you, right?
Mm. I
So
did
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I did tie my identity to the bar, to my friend group, and I never did the self-work. I never looked in here until I started therapy only a couple of years ago. And I'm like,
Mhm,
wow, it's one thing to go to therapy, but to actually do the homework and write the letters to yourself about how great you are. That was the
mhm,
hardest thing I've ever done.
mhm,
And yeah, we do. We tie it to the bar, we tie it to our community, to the people rather than looking inward. What's going to make me great? What's going to make me a great partner? What's going to make me great with my family? And
mhm,
that self-work, especially, I read The Velvet Rage, Growing Up Gay in a Straight Man's World, and such
mhm,
a great book. And I still have it. I recommend it to people, but I'll open it up to just a chapter.
mhm,
And it really helped me navigate that stage 1, 2, and 3 as he
mhm,
talks about in that book. And it's just, I recommend it to every gay man. It just, a guy writes it. So he actually, in his forward, he's like, okay, it can relate to lesbians, but I'm writing it from a gay man's perspective and
mhm,
what I went through.
mhm.
Good book.
Well, yeah, I mean, even though we're both gay and we're both with partners, I'm with a partner of my same gender and you've been with partners with the same gender, it's a very different experience.
Mhm.
That's like a lot of times I don't take on gay male clients, even though like the divorce, all that stuff is very similar. The coming out is very similar, but we live in very different worlds. We just do, and it's the experiences are very similar. But I want to read that book because I'm really, really. I have a solo male client right now, and I want to read it because I think it might be really, really good for him. Um, so like a lot of gay guys, the community's in the bar. Lesbians community, once they get older, is not the bar. We're real. That's why lesbian bars have a hard time surviving. Although we have a very famous lesbian bar here in Nashville. They have because gay lesbians stay home and stay on the couch and watch TV, while gay men still go out and go to bars. But bars can cause a lot of problems if you're going all the time. And so I know that you have been talked about being sober. So was it like your drinking, did it like start in college in the fraternity life and then just keep going? Or how did it all begin to evolve where it got to the point of being out of control?
Yeah, it started before the fraternity, because I didn't drink or do any of that stuff in high school. I worked 2 jobs. I went to school. I was just very, focused and really shy. And then I really came out of my shell in college, which I'm really glad I did.
Mhm,
And so really in the dorms and meeting people. And then Sigma Chi was a blessing to me. It was just an amazing fraternity. Still involved now as an alumni. And actually, I drank less in the fraternity than I did in the dorms because we had study hours and my GPA went up. It was amazing. But
mhm.
college as a whole, yeah, I mean,
Go to
when
school,
I
Wes.
went
Where'd
to
you go to
Western
school?
Illinois University.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And again, that's a small farming community. So, I mean, the town was 12,000. I think the student body was 10,000. So we almost doubled the town. And it was all the Chicago kids. I grew up in central Illinois. It was all this. So I felt like I was in a bigger city and it was a whole new experience for me and my first black friend, my first gay friend, and all that. So, but involved in committees in the fraternity. I mean, just yeah, you go to happy hours, you turn 21, and all that good stuff. But really, my drinking was more in the gay bars and just going out. It's Monday martinis, it's Tuesday taco night, and it was just always a reason to go out. It was a lot of fun,
Mhm,
and and I. And October of 21 is when I decided to stop drinking. I'm like, let me do a challenge. because I realized for 20 years since I'd started college to then, I'm like, I have always had a drink in my hand everywhere I went. Why?
Mhm.
I didn't have the DUIs. I didn't have the addiction, thank goodness, because I have family members that do. But a
Mhm.
part of why I didn't want to drink is I saw what it did to families. I
Mhm.
saw
Mhm.
the It Scoop Nashville. If you follow that page, every person that's being arrested, it's totally avoidable. And I'm like, I could get there. I have that addictive personality. I think at some point this may become a problem. So, but socially, I just did it because you're supposed to,
Mhm.
and that's not even a gay thing. It's straight, everything.
Well, Nashville is a drinking town too. I mean, Austin and Nashville are drinking towns, both
Yeah.
of them. I
And
mean,
when,
I actually find that about Nashville. Nashville, my God, there's so much drinking in Nashville.
lot of drink. And everywhere you go,
It's
our
centered. Yeah.
it is, and our society is as well. And that's why I tell people, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't judge. If I see someone walking into a bar, I'm not going to judge them because I've been there, right? And I think in moderation, it's fine. It's just a product that I don't like anymore. So when people are like, God, how can you not do this? I'm like, do you like Brussels sprouts? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then you don't have Brussels sprouts. It's that easy. I think alcohol is a product that I don't want. I had to separate it in my mind of I need this. Because how many times do you hear people, oh my God, it's a day I need a drink. To me, that's like it's been a day I need a meth pipe. It's just as bad. And I
Mhm.
see what alcohol does to people. It's a drug. And again, too, I think in moderation it's okay, but I'm just so glad I'm over that part of my life of I needed a happy hour. I needed this drink to talk to a guy. I needed this drink to go out. If you're needing a product to make you a different person, I just don't think it's right. And that was, but a lot of my personal story is I just did it because it was society. Society tells you you're at a wedding,
Mhm.
you're at a birthday party, and there's always a reason. People do dry January, but then there's birthdays, or then Valentine's is coming up and you're going out with your buddies because you're single, and there was always a reason to drink. And I'm like, why can't I just be a better person and be a healthier person and not need a product
Mhm.
to make me someone else?
Did you go with a program or did you just sort of do this on your own?
On my own. It was October 18th. It was a Monday. I did go out that Sunday on a little Sunday fun day. I had probably 2 to 4 drinks. It wasn't a lot. And I was in the barber chair and he spun me around and I saw myself and I did not look good at
Mhm.
all. And it could have been I'm going to blame it on the fluorescent lighting in his barber shop.
Lighting
But
lighting is horrible in
I,
salons and barbershops.
I saw myself and I'm like, and he had a gallon of water on his thing and he's a jiu-jitsu guy. And he's like, yeah, I'm cutting weight. I have a fight next weekend. I have to cut 13 pounds. I'll never forget it. And I said, so he was doing basically the hard 75 hard, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to work out twice a day and do all that. Let me try 75 days with a gallon of water a day and no liquor. And I did that.
Mhm.
And that's funny. It's crazy how it was October 18th because 75 days took me to my birthday, which is New Year's Eve, December 30th. And I'm like, well, good. I'll have a New Year's Day drink or a New Year's Eve drink, right? And I got there, never had a drink. I have an
Yes.
uncle who's an addict. I've seen what it's done to families and my family. And I'm like, I can avoid that. And yeah, I was the fun drunk, but there are times when I was drunk, as I sure we all can relate, of where I said something to an ex or I text somebody
Mhm.
that's in there, and I'm like, I just can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
And that's how it started.
It's interesting because I have found that lately too. Like in the last year, I have been like, I just don't want to drink anymore. Like I used to drink a lot. And, during the pandemic, Tanda and I, my wife and I, we were getting up to 2 bottles of wine a day because, it was the pandemic. And a lot of people did that too. And it's interesting that your date was in 2021 because it was definitely a part of you that probably in the pandemic did a real life review because we were all sort of stuck at home and doing all the things we did. And I find like the pandemic really made so many people really reevaluate everything in their life, and that's one of the good things from the pandemic. So it sounds like you reevaluated your drinking and said, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, Zoom calls. We'd have Zoom calls with
Mhm.
friends back home, fraternity brothers. teams, all of that. I crack open the Merlot and then we'd all cheers and do that. And I got bored with it,
Yeah.
and there's so many people since I've done this. I posted when I did 75 days and I posted at day 300 and I think day 900. I don't post a lot about it. And it's funny. I get things from both sides. So I've had people reaching out, be like, my cousin needs help. Where did you go?
Mhm.
My friend at church needs a program. Who did you use? And I don't know. I didn't use a program, but I refer them out. And I've heard from so many people the positives, and it's like, hey, me and my partner are doing what you did. And these are people I don't know. They reach out through the podcast or they'll reach out through Instagram.
Mhm.
But when I started posting a couple things, I started getting kickback from friends. And
Really?
they're like, oh, so you're better now, huh? And I'm like, I'm not at all. I just don't drink. No, I don't know what that screams, but there's times where I've talked about, yeah, I just made it to day 487 or whatever the day was
Well,
in. And they're like, oh, so you're better now. And I'm like, well, you brag about how many shots you had. I'm
mhm.
just every now and then saying how many days I'm sober in a conversation. I don't go up to people and tell them in Walmart, but
Yeah.
I got the reverse. So I got people that are pissed at me, and I've lost a few friends, which is fine, but I'm doing it for myself,
Yeah.
and it's
Well, that's
helping the people.
Well, that's probably coming out of their own shame and guilt, and that they realize they need help and they just don't know how to do it. And so a lot of times people take that anger that they feel it themselves and turn it against somebody who is actually walking the walk and doing the hard work. Because it's hard. I mean, was it hard for you at all? Like a lot of people say like the first couple of months were really, really hard. And was it hard, or tell me about it?
Socially,
Yeah,
yeah,
socially. Yeah.
100%. And I pray and I thank the Lord because I didn't have the tremors. I didn't have I've got to have this drink. It was all social for me. And since I've posted about this a few times, there are so many people that are like, I don't want to drink, but I do. And it's not because I need it. It's because I feel like I have to. So I think you have the far extreme of people that need the help and need the programs. And then you
Mhm.
have those people right in the middle. They're like, I don't even care to drink. I guess I'll have a vodka tonic. I'm at the bar.
Yes.
Socially, I was with my ex at the time. And the first big event was my ex-girlfriend's wedding.
Mhm.
So I took my boyfriend to my ex-girlfriend's wedding in Chicago. We had a blast. Her and I are close. I love her to death. We dated in college. And we just remained really, really close. So that was a tough one because it was a lot of us guys in the fraternity and a bunch of her sorority sisters. It was just like a throwback to college. I'm like, this is going to be tough. This is going to be
Mhm.
really, really tough. I made it through.
Mhm.
My co-host Philip, he had a big party on the drag bus, and then he had people at his house, and we all went to the bar. That one was tough because people flew in for it. It was a big event. After
Mhm.
those two, I think, and Philip has been a great support to me, my Chicago friends. No one's ever been, a few people are like, well, you didn't have a problem, so just have one drink. That's the problem right there. I'm like, well, I don't want to. I'm not going to force food down your throat that you don't like. So
Right.
why do I need this drink to be accepted by you? Because if that's the case, then we're acquaintances, not friends. So
Mhm.
that was the tough part. And I think there's millions of people out there that don't want to drink that just do. I still go to a bar. I'll still go to brunch with friends. I go to concerts. I'll
Mhm.
go to the rodeo. I'll go to the symphony. I haven't stopped. My life's gotten better, you know?
Mhm.
And I used to have FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Now I
Mhm.
have JOMO, which is joy of missing out. Because I'm like, maybe I should
Oh,
just
I love you.
marry a lesbian because I'm on the couch all the time.
You should. You
I,
can come stay here with Tanda and I.
I'll come over.
We're watching young Sheldon through right
Okay.
now.
But it's fun to have those conversations, and I post on Instagram and every now and then, and people, I mean, there's people that I don't remember from grade school that are just like, hey, we follow you and this is just so amazing. And my cousin OD'd from, fentanyl or whatever. And again, we're all human. We can all relate to a point, but some of that I can't relate to. But it's just nice being a positive, like it's weird to say about myself, but what people, they're like, you're a positive ray of sunshine. I want some of that, but I don't feel I can get out of my friend group. Am I going to lose my friends? And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, right there, you just said you're going to lose your friends over a product. That's like me not liking you if you don't drive I don't know, a Tahoe. Like it's just weird. Um,
Well, but a lot of times when people are, so I worked in dual diagnosis in what's it called? Oh my goodness, IOP, intensive outpatient. I did the spirituality groups and an intensive outpatient for people who were in recovery. And a lot of times, especially when people are young, I think it's easier to get sober when you're a little older and have maturity behind you. And also, you're not missing out on much, because I do think FOMO really happens for the young people. But if you do not change your friend group, it's going to be really, really hard to stay sober if you have people still actively using their drugs of choice. I mean, that's really hard to do. And I also think older people, like people are grow up and they give you grace. They may still drink but they're like, you do you, boo. You know, you do
yeah,
you stay sober. I'm fine with that, but I'm still going to have my vodka tonic at the
yeah.
bar. And that's okay if that's what they want.
Absolutely. And, to that point, my friends will still invite me out. I still go with them. I don't want to be that hypocritical person where drinking so bad, because I don't think it is in moderation. For me, it was just a lifestyle choice that I made, but I'm not going to go to the bar and like stare down my friends if they drink, right? Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine going through college and not having the fraternity life and the other, dorm life that I had. It made me that's a season of life. And to your point, as you're older, I've been through a lot of seasons, and I'm like, this doesn't bring me joy anymore. And what does bring me joy? Nature, theme parks, charity. That's where I want to focus. But for all those years, especially coming out, that bar was my community. And when people, I've been on dates and there's guys that are like, I won't go to a gay bar. I just don't like it. And I'm like, but that's you. I found a lot of safety in a gay bar. And sometimes that's the only, especially when you come out and you're in that season of life, that's where you feel safe, because there's people
Well,
with you that are going through the same thing.
right. And also, too, that's often people's own unexplored internalized homophobia. Because if you go to a bar, you have to admit something about yourself,
Mhm.
and there's lots of people that are very clandestine about it. But a lot of times people are like, I'm not going to go to a bar because I don't like that. But that's also meaning something that they may not like about themselves, that they're not as straight as they wish they were, you
Mhm.
know?
But all my
Um,
straight friends go to the bar. Like after I came out, I went to Chicago, and I think Pride or Market Days was going on. And my fraternity brothers and their wives, who we all went to college together, like, hey, let's go up to Boys Town. I'm like, we don't have to go just because I just came out. And they're like, oh, we go all the time. So they don't tell me. They're like, we go when you're not here. So I'm like, okay, let's go. Uh, yeah, I can't imagine coming out. And I mean, I just made so many great friends in Austin. I made so many great friends here in Nashville, and that community keeps growing, right? And but yeah, it's just I've made so many friends there.
So I want to ask a couple questions. When I read your bio, you said the darkest of nights. And honestly, Wes, when I see you, you are a little ray of sunshine. You're always very positive. You're like, oh, it's always joy to see you out whenever I bump into you or anything like that. Um, but tell me a little bit about the darkest of nights. What did you mean about that?
Yeah, I, I just never felt good enough. And this is from childhood. And again, I had a great family. I was close with three great grandparents. No, my I still have a grandma, she's 91 and very accepting. And so I struggle with that because I'm like, I've always been I had that suicidal ideology, right? And then when I came out, and then I don't know what it was. I've just been in so many dark places of I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not thin enough. I don't fit in with the gay crowd. And and those were some pretty dark times of why am I here? What
Mhm.
what what do I have to offer? I've been single most of my life. And other than a few great relationships, they were great guys, just didn't work out.
Mhm.
And so it was like you just you sink back into I'm just not good enough. If this is what, the universe has put forth, why am I single? Why in the early days, it was, why am I gay? Why I can't be this. That was that darkness. And then different seasons, it's a different darkness.
Mhm. Um, did your coming out help relieve any of that for you? Like, I'm not good enough because, you know, the norm for gay people is like you have to be straight and, heterosexual and everything like that. And when we compare ourselves to that, we're not that, but we're always striving to be that.
Mm.
Right? Like I have a story about how I did my first retreat with women coming out later in life. And I'm the mom of 4 kids, and I'll never forget of never really fitting in with the other moms. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I assumed it was because of childhood stuff. I am smart enough to think about stuff like that. But I just didn't fit in. And then when I finally talked to these women, they were all and we all talked about like never fitting in with the mommies. Like we just didn't care about the same things that a lot of the moms did, because a lot of times the focus in straight mommy conversation is husbands and kids. And
Mhm.
I'm bored with want to talk about other things. And in finding my community that way made me realize that, I just tried to fit into a paradigm that I wasn't made for. And so when I let go of trying to fit into the paradigm and finding my new paradigm, I became infinitely more happy.
Mhm.
Because I think that we are, we are supposed to live as authentically as possible. And so when we stop trying to figure out, how do I fit into this group? How do I fit into the fraternity? How do I fit into my family the way they are? How do I, how do I fit into the drinking scene in Nashville and Austin? And then you say, excuse me, I'm going to swear, fuck it. I'm just going to do what I want.
Mhm.
That's what it comes.
Mhm.
Mhm. Did that
That
happen to you?
it did. And too, I want to point out for people that are hearing this that may not be out or maybe are and can relate. When I told my parents, I didn't say I'm gay. I didn't say those two words for at least 2 years after I came out. So I still wasn't comfortable with it.
Right.
I I like guys, or I'm not going to marry a woman. Like I still had that denial in me, but it wasn't until I said I'm gay proudly that it lifted.
Mhm.
And those bar times, the meeting those people, it was just like, wow, this is happiness and this is life, living my true self. And
Mhm.
again, like Steve Jobs says, not living life, not living someone else's life.
Right.
Everybody else is living their lives, and we're over here pigeonholed. Like,
Mhm.
okay, can I do this? Can I do this? When I went back home for the first time, and my high school friends, which they were very liberal, even in our small town, I was a conservative one in the group. And we went out for pizza. I'll never forget. And I'm like, oh, and I showed him a picture of my first boyfriend. I said, this is the guy I'm talking to. They're like, oh, you have a boyfriend. I'm like, this is the guy I'm talking to. But it wasn't until after I had the confidence of walking into a new job or a networking event, and be like, oh, my partner. I didn't have to ask for permission anymore. That's what
Mhm.
elevated me. But you're right. Living authentically is just everybody else is. Why can't we? And
Oh,
like I told my parents, like, what are people saying? I said, I'm out here, I'm looking through the windshield. The rear view mirror,
yeah.
that's full.
Yeah.
It's that jelly
Don't
roll,
think
has
about
that
that
quote.
anymore.
Don't
Well,
look at it. And if they want to sit around and talk about me on a Friday night when I'm out living my life, donating to charity, helping kids in need, giving people places to live, they can sit around and talk about me all they want, because for so many years I was in that closet and in that dark bedroom worried about what people thought. Now I'm out there living.
Well, yeah, and also too, nobody's talking about you because honestly, I mean, like that's the thing, is that we worry so much about people talking about us and thinking about us, and our queerness comes through their mind for about 13 seconds. And then it's done. And I want to say this to people who are so worried about coming out. really you're coming out, you're going to always be coming out because we are always coming out. Every time I say my wife, every time you say your partner, I mean, you're coming out to people. And so many times people get so worried about what people think. And honestly, people are self-centered. We think about our own lives and we find out somebody's gay. We're either, oh, that's great. Oh, okay. Or God, that's gross. But it doesn't really matter. That's how long people think about us, and that's just the truth of it.
And it's so true. But then that's self-imposed because then we think that everybody's talking about us. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a thing that's in our head that we have to process and get rid of. And you told us on our podcast, I'll never forget, you said it's not about coming out, it's about letting people in.
And yeah, that's true.
Oh, and I'm like, God, I wish I would have heard that at 28 or at 19.
Mhm.
Right. That was so, I'll never forget you saying that. I'm like, that is so powerful. You're letting
Well,
them in.
yeah, because we're taking back control, right? When you're coming out, you're asking permit. Well, you're not asking permission. I don't want to say that, but you are coming out to people and telling them your truth. But when you are letting people in, it's you choose who you let in to your personal life
Yeah.
and what you're going to talk about and let them know. And so when you take back your power, it's a pretty wonderful thing. So on my little cheat sheet, you said to ask you about what's one thing that gets to you about our community. What was that? What were you thinking when
Oh
you thought
gosh,
about
I say, God, I need the cheat sheet now. Um,
that?
what I the community that I've made some great gay friends, right? That my hometown has rallied. Like, I'm gonna tell you what, people talk about small towns. Every time I go back, when I was with my ex at the coffee shop, old teachers would come up to me and they would want to meet him and talk to him more than me. I assumed they were going to be blocked off in this little Illinois small town, white conservative farming community. And they have been the most welcoming, which really helped my parents. The only hate I've ever had is from other gay people because I'm not fit enough and I'm not tall enough, or I don't drive the Maserati. I don't know, and some of that I think, Anne-Marie, sometimes is self-imposed. You see a group of good-looking guys, I'm like, well, I don't compare to them, but they may be looking at us thinking the same thing.
Well,
It's all our own narrative, but interactions as well. And this talking about the little things like that campfire, that one comment of the gays ruined our vacation. I was on a date once and this guy, it was 2012 in Austin, Texas. And he's like, you'd be unstoppable if you lost weight. And I'm like, thanks. I'll never
thanks.
talk to that asshole anymore. And but that sucked that I was never good enough. For that one comment, I'm like, if somebody didn't message me back, I'm not good enough. We went out once and they ghosted me, I'm not good enough. And now I'm at the point of like, I'm really good. And I love my single life. I do hope there's a partner in the future. But I have high expectations and standards because I put myself through that. But
Right,
that's
absolutely.
probably what I meant by that is I've never had more hate thrown at me other than the gay community within our own community. And we need to support each other. And I'll never forget, we were at one of the gay bars here in Nashville. And this was even after I stopped drinking. I was there with the guys and there was someone standing alone. And I'm like, hey, come stand with us. He's like, I've never been to a city. And he travels for work. He's like, I've never been to a city and some group invited me in to talk. It's not clicky. And I
Mhm.
said, I don't like that word because if I look over and I'm not invited in, yeah, I'm going to think they're clicky, but maybe they're talking about something important. I don't know. But I said, I want to, where are you from? And we had the best time. And I think he was from Chicago. And he had a partner. He was there for work, just wanted to check out a gay bar. And then I told him, oh my God, you have to go to this plantation, this Civil War thing over here, the Tennessee State Museum. And he's like, I did not expect this from a gay. And that's what I think we need to be like. Sure, you're going to have your groups and your friends, you're going to go out and stick together, but that's what I meant by that.
Well, and I think that also depends on like I have not found that in the lesbian community, but I also came out older. So I think that may have something to do with it because I think when people are younger, they still can be super, super quick, clicky. And even though you think 29 is old, and it's not. It's young, I mean, and I know a lot of guys that have come out in their 20s and stuff like that. But I do think the gay male community can be really tough on each other. And after we get off this podcast, let me tell you some stories about some friends of mine. But it can be really cliquey and really judgy and very, very based on looks, just like heterosexual males. Because heterosexual males can really very often judge women just based on looks and what their bodies look like. It's like we've taken, we've taken people out of the the straight world, but we haven't taken the straight out of them, where they look at people and judge them by what they look, or how big they are, or how small they are, or how tall or how short. It's very, very interesting. Like, they haven't done the internal work yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's just being young sometimes. And as people get older, they definitely start, some people never, ever stop that because it's so ingrained in them. So
Sure.
I love that your coming out song is Simply the Best. Tell me about, that's Schitt's Creek song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
So why was that your coming out song?
I love music, and it was hard to narrow it down because I just love Tina Turner. I saw the musical when it came through here. It's phenomenal. And there were so many dark years of doubting myself and not being confident. I have to walk the line of not being cocky now. Like, I'm overly confident, but that's better than from the days where I wanted to kill myself. So I choose that song because I think mentally you have to think you're better than the best. Michael Jordan didn't go out there and thinking he was average. He thought he was the best. I don't act like I'm the best, but I think it, especially in real estate and property management and my job. There's a lot going on. I have to be mentally confident. And that song has just always done it for me. Automatic by Miranda Lambert, about throwing it back, when you'd shake a picture, shake the Polaroid, just simple things like that is just another one that's an anthem for me because it takes me back. But I mean, it's Tina Turner.
Well, in Schitt's Creek, that song, when David sang, Patrick sang it to David, is just so romantic the way he sang it. And did you see Schitt's Creek?
Yeah, I haven't seen that scene, but I love the humor on that show.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's the right Tina Turner song now that I'm saying it. We'll cut it out if it isn't. But my wife and I played that when the slower version of it, not Tina Turner, when we got married. When we walked in.
Way.
Yeah. So you said you love the movie The Velvet Rope. Why the hell? The book, The Velvet Rope. Yeah. We mentioned it before, but why the hell? The book, The Help. I'm curious.
Man, I read that. It was after I came out, and I think it was just all of that happened in like my parents' and grandparents' generation. I don't understand. Being in a marginalized community, I'm sitting here and I'm watching this. I read the book and then I watched the movie. And I was living in Austin. I was at my apartment. I'll never forget. And I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, how did this? For me, it just struck home. It's like, I can't believe this happened in the 1900s. It made me really sad how people were treated and how the help were treated. And that movie just stuck. It was just a changing to be compassionate and give people opportunities. And, I helped spearhead the DEI committee here for the apartment association. It was the first year that they had one. And that movie has just stuck with me. I don't know, maybe because I'm part of a marginalized, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think, it makes perfect sense, because you realize when you came out, you finally admitted you were a part of a marginalized community. And then when you saw The Help and you saw that happened, it gave you compassion and empathy for somebody else who was marginalized based on something they had absolutely no control over as a human being. So it makes a lot of sense that The Help really, really spoke to you right when you came out. Makes a lot of sense. Really does. So how would you describe your life today?
Oh man. meeting older guys, when I was 28, 29, started going out. I met people in their 40s and 50s. And they're like, I just love being single. And I'm like, how? That's so weird. I'm 43 and single, and now I get it. I'm like, I love that. I love the community we have here in Nashville. I like this city. I feel safe in this city. Career, having that confidence, which took many years to get, but having that confidence and being able to lead a part of a company and to give people opportunity at our developments and what I do, and just inspire people. I don't care what they look like. I go off merit. I go off personality. I go off gut feeling. And to be able to give people that opportunity in a growing city where we're going to need a lot of talent in a few years,
Mhm.
that makes me so happy. I'm on a nonprofit that we donate money to Children's Miracle Network.
Mhm.
We do a concert every CMA Fest. So we plan it throughout the year, and then we have one big show. And we work with every major country artist. And TG Shepherd hosted it. TG lived with Elvis at Graceland for 7 years. And I'm close with him and his wife. And I just have a good life. And there were a lot of struggles. I'm still single. And a lot of people, I think it's more and more common now and socially acceptable to be single. Before, it's like, what's the matter with you? And I thought that of myself, but now it's all work for me. So I do struggle to have that social dating life, because like
Mhm.
when you ask me, all I'm talking about is work and charity. I talk about work all the day, all day long. But when
Mhm.
it comes to relationships and dating, I'm still trying to get that confidence. I'm still trying to go on a date. I'm in my own head. So really, with therapy, who am I at my core? Someone's going to love me for who I am. At someday, maybe, if God puts that person in my life.
Mhm.
Uh, that's how I believe. But I'm like, how can I be 1% better every day? And how can I just make a difference? And
Mhm.
and we just really do have to keep it simple with the technology, crazy work schedules, all the world stuff going on. It's an election year. People are at it. I'm just like, I just want to keep it simple
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and just return back to to me, it's the 80s when I was growing up. And it just,
Well,
we weren't as
well,
connected.
yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Wes Schmitz, from being here today. I have, saying that I have a speech impediment, so saying a W is very hard for me. So, so Wes, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to just tell our listeners, those who haven't don't see Wes, he's a very handsome guy. So I think it's
So
really, really,
sweet.
you are. You're such a handsome guy, and it's like, I don't know. You're like downgrading yourself. You're very handsome, and also you really are, Wes. When I run into you, you are so charming and so kind, and I just love running into you. So you are just a wonderful person, and I just want you to know that. And I'm really excited that you came here and talked to me today and spent a little time sharing your story. I'm sure it's going to help some guy out there somewhere who's 27 and saying, should I come out? So thank you.
Thank you for the work you do. Thank you. You always give the best hugs. So when I market, I'm
Give
like,
mom hugs.
yeah, I'm like, let's go. And like, some people you just call by their full name. I'm like, there's Anne-Marie Zanzal. I gotta go. There she is. So thank you for the work you do. And it's moments like that is just like, that's community. You could have a bad day and then go see someone, and or even this interaction just lifted me up. And hope I could be that for someone like you are for me. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA plus stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at annemariezanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit annemariezanzal.com.